Hello, I call this meeting to order at 7:02 p.m. We have board members present tonight. We have Nick Poloni, Ted Gergen, myself, Dana Powers, and Jack Nicolai. Steve Brown is absent tonight. Administration, everyone but Ryan. Okay, we have Marquez, Vicki, Christy, and Patty, all of my lovely faces, especially Marquez, his lovely face. Visitors, please make sure that you've signed in by the door. And join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Way better with the Boy Scouts.
Oh, so boring.
We'll be here next week.
Not as cute. Yeah. Take a motion on the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. President's report. I just thought of one thing I wanted to say on the way over is an encouragement to, I know Vicki's been doing the, what are you calling them?
Stay interviews?
Yes, stay interviews. So I feel very confident that the staff here has a place to go to and talk and all that. So I was just thinking, just for everyone else out there, who's ever here, just, over communicate. If you have a question, Vicki's all over it. Us, anyone here, whoever you feel comfortable, just an encouragement to reach out. I know I do that a lot with the staff, but just, I know everyone knows, and I know how they can get, a hold of everyone, but just the encouragement too. If you have a question, ask. Clerk, show us how it's done, Jack.
Here's the election information. There's one 3-year position up for election on the school board. 3 people have taken out candidacy paper. Alex Atia, is that correct? Nicole Haas and Dana Powers, is that correct? A primary may be needed to narrow the field down to 2 candidates. Drawing of lots took place for the spring primary election. Names will appear on the ballot in the following order. First position, Dana Powers. Second, Nicole Haas. Third, Alex Atia. The date of the spring primary election is February 21st, 2023.
Awesome. Thank you. Do you have any other correspondence?
There is no other correspondence.
Thank you.
We'll take a look at the treasurer's report dated December 2022. Ending balance in each account for the general fund cash account, ending balance of $290,904.88. Credit cards with an ending balance of $7,021.50. EBC Flex and HRA cash account, $11,392.49. Capital Improvement Fund, Fund 46, $30,542.93. Petty cash, $300. LGIP, $821,322.62. And WISC, or Fund 49, $22,897,558.89. Grand asset total for December 2022 ending with $24,059,043.31. We look at the payment of accounts payable bills dated December 1st through December 31st, 2022. This includes checks numbered 71434 through 71601 and 2022000563 through 222-30033. Total of checks of $902,033.88. Are there any questions at all on the reports? We can take a look at some of the other things as well. Jack, Nick? Okay. All right, and our last meeting, you recall we had a short-term borrow that took place on December 1st. The short-term borrowing was $300,000. Marquez let us know that was paid back on January 17th. today.
And the interest was?
The interest was only $1,600. So again, we're starting to chip away at the amount that I feel like when we first short-term borrowed, it was like my first year as a board member was over $1 million.
Yeah,
So I think that's pretty awesome.
Yep, and depending on how the year shakes out, we might actually get to a point where we might not have to short-term borrow next year. I don't want to make any
Yeah.
promises this early in the year, but
It's in the minutes.
the $1,600 in interest is actually more than we paid last year because interest rates have gone up,
Right.
but we borrowed less and for a shorter time than last year, so.
last year, it was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I should say last fiscal year. Yep.
And then also last time when the reason that we had to short-term borrow is because we had not received any of that state aid or any of the property tax payments. So property tax payments are rolling in. I think you said the last ones were received today. Today was a big day.
Huge day.
Paid off some short-term borrowing and received some money. So that's awesome. I don't know if there are any highlights from the revenue and expense report that was shared out.
Just on the revenue side, as Ted mentioned, we did receive 25% of the state aid on December 5th, so that helped us kind of get through the rest of December. We do a lot of our payments in December for retro pay for our staff once we go through the negotiation process. We also do any stipends that are for the full year, we pay out half at the right before the end of the calendar year. So December is kind of a big expense month in addition. We did, overall revenues are slightly up compared to last year. It's not 2% more than last year at this point. If you flip to the next slide, we get to the expenses. So expenses are actually up significantly more than last year, and this is mainly due, in addition to the salaries and benefits being higher than they were last year, we do have a smaller interfund transfer, that 800 level object. So that's the second from the last row on the bottom. So last year we transferred a significant amount to Fund 27 and to Fund 46. That amount to Fund 46 has gotten greatly diminished. So because the overall budget is actually smaller than last year, even though our expenses are up more, it's showing as a greater percentage through the year. But then in addition, our expenses are up through the year, and it's we had a lot of software one-time costs this year that we're using ESSER dollars for. And then we did have the air handling units that were $200,000 also covered by ESSER. So we have a lot of ESSER spending this year. We do have one more year left on the grant. And then next month, I hope to do an ESSER update with where we're at. But overall, our expenses are up at this point in the year. But they should be leveling off now. And so it should be kind of a, through the remaining months, you should see the year-to-date expenses get closer to what they were last year. Though I think throughout the whole year, it'll be up a little bit. But the gap will
Until the ESSER money goes away,
Yep.
and the health insurance premium switch and
Yep.
all that.
Yep, a lot of.
Are there any speculations yet on state aid?
So I just attended the Baird, which is one of our partners that we use for our budget modeling. They put on a presentation today as part of the State Education Convention
Big day.
on the state budget proposal. So right now we have the DPI proposal, which is one thing.
Yeah.
Obviously, the ask might be greater than what we'll actually get. The governor should be issuing a budget here in the next couple of weeks. And then after that, it'll go to the Joint Finance Committee. And then hopefully by June or July, we'll know what the budget is. I tend to be a little conservative on the revenue side, just because I don't want to get caught off guard. But as more things roll in, I'll update it on the future board.
So you've heard nothing, no crickets?
So right now, the DPI is, they've requested a $350 increase on the revenue limit per pupil for next fiscal year, and the following year, a $650 increase. I think those are, obviously I would love for those to go through, but realistically, I'm being a little more cautious on that for now.
That would be nice, but that seems.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you do have to remember that the last 2 years we did not
Nothing.
we had zero increases, so you almost have to make up for that. Otherwise, you're even losing ground to what would have normally happened and to inflation.
Right.
So.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thanks, Marquez, you're great.
So we have our regular school board minutes. I realized last month I didn't check in. Are there any amendments or changes that we want to make before we? Okay. And then our resignation, we have the student support coach, Pam Llewellyn, accepted a position in Kenosha. And so she will be leaving. And so the resignation will include the liquidated damages that we're going to assess as well.
I move to approve the consent agenda items A through E as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Public comments. We did not receive anything through email and nobody here tonight, so thank you. Rolling right along.
Yes, we are.
All right, so every January, we're required to review our open enrollment openings for the following school year. So I tried to keep it similar to last year, but I do want to highlight some things that have changed, and then I'll go over the actual open enrollment seats available. First thing, we did move away from specific class size target numbers. So we used to have an actual number. Now we've moved to a range just to allow us greater flexibility. Through the calculations, I used the midpoint in that range to do the calculation, but that range does give us a little flexibility on either end. The enrollment projections are based on the current enrollment and then our normal trends from year to year. So we can kind of look at the last 5 years. We tend to pick up students in each grade. So over the last 5 years, every single grade increases slightly from the year before. We do see a big jump from 4K to 5K. So those trends are kind of built into that enrollment projection. We also did contract out with the UW-Madison Applied Population Lab. We did get the report late last week, so I did kind of make sure it jived with what I was using. But I will kind of bring that forward as we look more towards the budgeting with the enrollment numbers. But that contracted enrollment projection did match up with pretty much close to exactly what we had. The total number of sections that we're going to be offering next year is the exact same number in total. But we did have a switch, so we did see an increase from 4 to 5 at 6th grade. So we had a small 6th grade class that's moving down to 7th grade. We had a large 5th grade class that's moving into 6th grade. And then we had a large 8th grade class that's leaving. And so next year's 8th grade class will be smaller. And so we do have the 8th grade class being one less section. So I highlighted that on 6th grade and 8th grade with different colors, the green meaning an increase and the red meaning a decrease. I did also want to point out that the 4K, we do include 2 half-day sections. So even though it says number of sections 5, the total is 47 because I'm not counting those 2 halves. I'm counting those 2 halves as 1. But for seats-wise, it's 5 sections. And then I did want to point out that the only grade that we don't have seats available, according to our calculation, is 3rd grade. So there are no open enrollment seats available, but we do have seats at every other grade level. Particularly the biggest one typically is the 4K grade level. We do have the most open enrollment seats in that one. And then I do want to point out that the district did update our policy 5113, which we now specify that we will establish a wait list if we do have more applicants than space available. And then we also, as part of that policy update, we are now guaranteeing in open enrollment seats for currently attending students and siblings of currently attending students. We gave them preference in the policy, but now we've formalized and made it a guarantee. So even if there are no open enrollment seats, those current attending students and siblings of currently attending students would be guaranteed an open enrollment seat. So, but as you can see, we do have open enrollment seats pretty available, except with the exception of 3rd grade, so I don't foresee that becoming an issue. Any students that open enroll into the district, are just additional revenue that we get in. The only time it becomes a concern is if it does push us up into that upper echelon or upper part of that the class size range, and then we would consider adding a section. But for now, we do have a calculation of 116 available open enrollment seats across grades 4K through 8th grade.
So with that target range, which is way better than having like that set number that we used to have, if you had a 7th grader, say a family had a 7th grader and a 3rd grader, even though it says 0, do we have the flexibility to work with with a family because of that, the size, the range? Only one section would have 24 instead of
So if it's not an open enrollment, let's just say it's a new family that moves in, obviously they're guaranteed the spot.
Yeah.
But if it was open enrollment, let's say the 7th grade student was open enrolled here currently, but the 3rd grade was in a different district and wanted to come here, because they are the sibling of a student currently attending, they would be guaranteed that spot. Even though we technically don't have any open seats, the way our policy is written out, we guarantee them.
Okay.
But we'd still be within our range.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
Makes sense.
And then so this is just our regular education open enrollment seats. I did want to let Christy come up and talk
Part
regarding
one
special
of the
education.
approval process. This is the other part of the approval process for you.
Okay, so I think the best way to start with this is really starting at the bottom where it says speech language, and I'll kind of go down the chart first, and then we'll go back to the top. So you can kind of see where our projected numbers are for next year. The first one's our current caseload. The way that I came about the projected numbers are any initial evaluations that are currently going on, assuming that they would all qualify for special education services, is where that projected number would come in. So that's kind of where we are right now. And this does not include students that may be in intensive intervention that could potentially lead to an evaluation. This is simply current numbers of students with IEPs plus any initial evaluations. So we have 2 speech language pathologists. Their projected numbers would be 85 between the 2 of them for next year. Our deaf hard of hearing teacher would have a projection of 5. She is part-time. And so that kind of limits as well the caseload number there. And then our OT would have a projected number of 26 students that she would be working with. And that's just within our building. We do share her with Harris and Brighton. And then for our PT and vision and audiologist, we do have students receiving those services, but they are contracted out to CISA. So for open enrollment purposes, anything that we contract out, we do not need to accept students for open enrollment because we don't provide those services in-house. So that kind of already eliminates any students that would be receiving those contracted services. So at this time, we would close to kind of the speech, language, and related services based on our numbers, meaning that we wouldn't have the capacity in our related services to accept any IEPs that would have speech, language, deaf or hard of hearing, occupational therapy, PT, vision, and audiology. So that kind of explains that bottom part. Up above are the numbers of students with IEPs per grade level. You can kind of see in my color coding that we have combined those 3 grade levels right now, one with a long-term sub who's overseeing all of our first grade students with IEPs. 2nd grade is divided between one of our special education teachers and the long-term sub. And then 3rd grade is the special education teacher who also shares 2nd grade. So hopefully that makes sense with the color coding there. So we are saying 0 seats in all of the grade levels as well. The reason for that really, DPI is now moving away from the weighted caseloads. You guys might remember in the past that there were suggested numbers of weighted caseloads versus what we currently had versus projection. DPI is no longer supporting that. So as a district, we have to put parameters into why we would say that our seats in special education are full. And really this comes about because we're looking to expand our continuum of care. And so ensuring that we have enough staff members to expand our services to meet student needs is really why we wouldn't have space moving forward in special education for open enrollment. The thing that is kind of the same as Marquez was talking about is if there is, because our policy does now guarantee, so if we had a student open enroll with a sibling that had an IEP, the space no longer matters. We guarantee all at that point.
Okay, that's good to know.
Any questions or clarification?
That's great.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So this motion is to combine both of these pieces of the information.
Move to approve open enrollment openings for the 2023-2024 school year as presented.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right.
I'm going to update you on our progressive discipline model. So we've been doing a lot of work with our student support system, and to that end, we're looking at not just the discipline model, but also how are we recognizing and rewarding students' positive behaviors or expected behaviors. So we're working on that system to make sure that all of our students are able to participate in dances, other incentives, when they are able to demonstrate that they're ready to participate in those. As far as our progressive discipline model is concerned, that applies to all of our students, whether they're gen ed, special ed, 4K, 8th grade, all of our students are part of the system. And our goal with that is to not only stop the behavior in the moment, but then prevent it from continuing in the future. So if we're looking at, let's say we're looking at a behavior like 2 second grade students who are chasing each other around the classroom. The first time that happens, the teacher might just give them a correction, reteach, call home, let's not do that again. Second time, I guess you didn't learn from that, and now you might have a lunch detention and we're going to call home. So we're stepping up incrementally the discipline for unexpected behaviors. And then it might get to the point of behaviors are continuing, we haven't been able to work through that, let's work with the counselor on a plan. Maybe we need to have some lessons with the counselor or the student support coach. So that's built into the plan as well. So another part of that is our continuum of support. So we want to make sure that students have a space outside of the classroom if they need it. So it might just be a student who needs 5 minutes to de-escalate. They're frustrated, they are struggling with something, and they just need time and space. So we have set aside spaces for that. It might be a student that needs time to work through a reflection with an adult. So they're going to take a half hour with a counselor and work through a conflict that they're having with a friend so that they can then go back in the classroom and learn. Or it might be that a student's been assigned to ISS and they've got a process to work through for that. So we're working on that whole continuum of support to make sure that the teachers are getting the support that they're looking for and that students are getting what they need as well. So I just wanted to also come back to the front. We're really trying to focus on positive behaviors and recognizing those positive behaviors in students so that they are recognized as well. So we're still working on that. We've got our positive referrals that you should be hearing about, and those incentives are coming as well. So, all right.
Hey, like, I feel like sometimes people think like this situation is unique to Salem, like the behavior issues, right? Like we hear about it, we see about it on Facebook. What I know it's not unique, like as somebody who works in a school, I mean, it's everywhere all over the country. What are you hearing locally from like colleagues? Like, is this something that's getting better, or is it the behaviors that we're seeing? I feel like a lot of it is coming out of the pandemic, right? Like that social isolation caused a lot of these behaviors to manifest. I don't know if, Chrissy, if you're hearing like things are slowly, you know, like.
There seems to be an improvement. I mean, obviously here, I've definitely felt the change here, but in area schools too. Last year, the year before, we were still kind of, we only had half the kids in the building at one time. Last year was everyone adjusting back to school, so there were some tricky times, but it is getting better, and I think everybody's looking for what different ways can we address that? How do we need to support kids differently? What needs do they have that we have to address in a way we've never thought of before? So people are getting creative.
Good. Yeah. Thanks, Patty.
All right, thank you.
So another information item, the 21-22 financial audit. It's been a while since I've talked about the audit.
I looked through it.
Yeah. So typically,
I did. It's exactly the same as it's been for the last 10 years.
There's one part that was different. I
there is
know.
one part.
Can you just say that?
yes. So I'll keep it short. So the financial audit. So typically this item is presented in December. That's when our auditors have to give the audit to DPI. I was absent at the last board meeting, and we had a full agenda, so we pushed it to this month. But the financial audit is essentially like kind of like your annual checkup with your doctor, make sure things are going right. But from a financial perspective, it's also to ensure that we're following our local policies, our state and federal requirements or laws. Sitzberger and Company is our auditor, and they do the audit in kind of three distinct parts. The first is that preliminary audit, which we added when I first came on board. So it's a one-day thing in June where they kind of look at everything through May. And it hopefully the goal is to speed up the regular audit then in August. So then we do that full financial audit over a 3-day period in August. And so they're kind of just double checking, make sure nothing changed prior to May, and then just kind of looking at June and then all the year end things that go on as part of the fiscal year end. And then because we had more than $750,000 in federal revenue the last couple of years, mainly due to ESSER, but also due to higher participation through the National School Lunch Program and breakfast programs, we did qualify for a single audit. So they kind of do an extra dig at all the federal grants that we received. After ESSER goes away, I'm predicting that we won't qualify for that single audit. So then that's just one less thing I have to worry about at the end of the year.
You can't ask for your own audit?
I mean, we could, but it does cost money. They charge, just like lawyers, they charge by the hour. So similar to the previous year, the auditors, they found no significant material weaknesses, but they did note 3 financial findings. So that's a change from last year. There was 4 when I first started. So we got down to 3. So the first 2, the lack of segregation of duties and the financial statement preparation, those 2 we will continue to have just given our size. So for the segregation of duties, we do try to segregate things in our office between me, Kelsey, and Jade as much as we can. But just because we only have 3 people, we don't have enough people to actually segregate fully. We could bring in other people from the main office or the district office, but the way we currently operate, we do not. We always will have that finding. And then the financial statement preparation. So that's actually preparing these audited financial statements because we have to have Sitzberger come in. That's a finding itself. So all but the largest districts in the state have that finding as well. And then the last one, the excess of expenditures over budgeted amounts, was a finding last year. I was pretty confident we weren't going to have it. So if you guys remember in June, I present an updated budget for all the amounts that varied from when we approved the budget. I forgot one account, and that was the transfer to Fund 46, because that doesn't actually occur till July. So in June, I forgot that one transfer amount to update that because we did transfer more than we had originally budgeted. So you would think that's a good thing, right? We had a surplus and we transferred more, but because I didn't update that, it was a significant over budget expense. And so that's why that popped up. So this year, first of all, our Fund 46 transfer will be much smaller if there's even is a transfer. But second of all, I hope to have that one gone, so we'll just be down those 2 for next year. So
It's really okay.
I know.
That's a good thing. That one was good.
What was the 4th one that wasn't?
So the previous year we had material misstatements of financial transactions. So that dated back to the prior year. There were some entries that were made incorrectly on the payroll liability side, and then we had to clean that up. But because we had to clean that up, that was a finding, but then we obviously didn't have that this year.
Okay, so next year at this time, it'll be 2.
2.
Oh my
So
gosh, I
we
can't
went
wait.
from 4 to 3
So
to
exciting.
2.
Okay.
So
Can't get rid of, no matter what.
the first 2, yeah. I mean, the segregation of duties could be done with some, like, a lot more, training and then having stuff done in different offices, but at this point, I think a lot of people are overwhelmed, and they review, our current processes and, are checking make sure nothing fishy is going on, but those 2 findings will be there likely into the future.
Thank you.
Hey, it's Marquez again.
Yay! Okay, so I think back in the early fall, we started talking about the fee schedule. Just kind of, we noticed our building was being used more, mainly because Central is, under construction, so they had a lot of groups coming in here. And that's a good thing. Originally, my goal was to have brought this probably in like November, have it approved, and then instituted in January, which we're now in. Obviously, this took a little longer than I thought, mainly because you know, things, life happen. So we're bringing it to you now, and I'm just presenting it as an information item, but our goal would then be to implement this starting in July 1st with the new fiscal year, just because we have a lot of dates already booked and we don't want to kind of go back and track everything down. So our policy 7510 is about facility usage, and it does allow the district to levy a fee to cover our expenses that we incur. Our goal is to encourage the use of our district facilities by the community for civic, recreational, social, and cultural purposes. And it is not our intention to make, to make a profit from these fees. It's just to cover our expenses. The biggest ones are the custodial staffing. So that's why there's two kind of columns there. One is for school days, because when we have a school day, we have custodians here anyway. So there's really no additional fee or no additional cost from a staffing perspective, so to speak. I'll explain why we do have a small fee there. But then on the weekends, it does jump up because we do have to have somebody come in, and they're usually at overtime. So that covers the cost of the staffing. The other thing is like the scheduling. So Nicole in our office, she handles all the requests that come in. So just factoring in the amount of time she's using to make sure the rooms are available, to communicate back and forth with whoever's requesting it, to make sure our building grounds crew knows to open the building. There's that consideration. There's the cleaning component. So when they're done using the space, we have to usually clean it up. Even if they do clean up themselves, there's still a secondary look. There's the garbage and waste disposal, and then there's also the use of equipment, whether it's projectors, whether it's basketball, hoops and things. All those are taking reducing the useful life of all those equipments and assets. So I tried to keep it simple. Originally, I was like, it was way more complex, and then when I thought about it, I was like, let's keep it simple. So we did kind of break it down into different groups. Obviously, our school district sponsored sports and activities kind of take precedence over everything. These are kind of ranked in the order of who gets priority for the space. And then obviously they don't pay any fee, and they're covered under our insurance. All the remaining groups, they do have to provide insurance certificate. And then, as you can see, the fee varies depending on if it's a school day or it's not a school day. To keep it simple for any non-district sponsored youth sports or activities, we do just a simple $5 per participant fee for the whole year. So if you had 20 people, that'd be a $100 fee, and then that covers the whole year for using the district facilities. We do want to make this accessible for everybody, not trying to make a profit, just trying to make sure we can cover the costs that we do incur from a district standpoint. And then you can see the rooms available that people can use. We did kind of take off a few spaces that are going to be under construction soon, just because we don't want to advertise that in July when they're going to be under construction. So those rooms available will change.
Can't rent out the home.
Yeah. Yep. So just wanted to present this as an information item. The way the policy is written, the fee schedule is managed by the district administrator, and Vicki tasked me with creating this. So
You're so lucky.
With the insurance certificate, do we have any special language on there, or is it just we're asking for a certificate?
we do have the specific language, and I forgot what the
Additionally, an insured waiver of subrogation?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
those would be the two, okay.
Yep.
Well, those are the ways that we really protect the district with those verbiages, so having a cert doesn't necessarily mean that we're waived from a lawsuit.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay. Cool.
Any questions, or
That's great.
try to keep it simple and
It's much simpler than it was.
yeah. And I did base it kind of just on other districts and try to make sure it
Yeah,
was
makes
in
sense.
line and that.
Okay, so do you want to go ahead and make this one, Christy?
Sure.
Yeah. Since you helped the background of this.
So our speech language pathologist, Lisa Anderson, found this amazing grant opportunity through the Kiwanis Club and applied for it and received a grant for one of our families to receive an iPad as a communication device for one of our students. They included a gift card that purchased the app to help with the communication for the student. So they received this on Friday last week, I believe it was. So we just wanted to give a special thank you to the Kiwanis Club for supporting our families and making the grant possible.
Is the Kenosha County Kiwanis? Or was it just?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, they've really revamped that whole program out here.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
Awesome.
I mean, the family came to receive the device. It was a great moment. So we're really excited that we had this opportunity through them. And so I know Lisa plans to continue to do this for more students as we move forward too. So it was great. We just want to thank them.
That's great.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Wow.
yeah. No committee reports. There will be some for next week.
You don't anticipate anything needed this month?
Do we have it?
Got it. I was going to the next item.
Yeah.
Do we have any?
We have the CAC, so the Citizens Advisory Council will meet on the 23rd, but is there any other,
Yeah, do you have a need?
I don't,
Do you need buildings and grounds for any? No, you're good. And then would you guys be okay with a closed session before next month's meeting? We're just kind of planning ahead. You good with that? Okay. Good.
do you want me to set it for 6?
Yeah, let's just do that. So we don't have to doodle.
Yep. No doodle?
No doodling.
No
involved.
doodle poll?
I'll put it in my update. as
Oh,
well.
wow, February 28th? Okay, so it must be 5 weeks because we.
Move this one up
This one,
earlier
okay.
week, yeah.
I'm like, wow, that's like. Oh, okay.
All right.
Cool. I move to adjourn the meeting at 7:38. Yay.
Second.
All those in favor?
All right.
Opposed? And we are adjourned.